Welcome to the April meeting of the Commission on Aging. Thanks to everybody for coming. Allie couldn't be with us today, so Cynthia is. Thanks so much for joining us from Human Services. Appreciate that. And we'll move right on to our discussion of March minutes. I think we have some modifications, Peter?
Right, there were some minor modifications, acronyms and a few numbers. I've given them to the recording secretary. I don't think we have to go through that.
So as long as we're all willing to take Peter at his word that there are acronyms and other things, which I personally am, okay? Any other changes to the minutes?
I think I was mentioned as attending.
Okay, and not. So Mary was not here. Great, thank you, Mary. Appreciate that. All in favor of the minutes as modified? All opposed? No.
No, wait. I think
I went too fast.
I was here though. I never look at the attendance.
Okay, right.
Susan Costa.
Susan Costin was, so we got to
I
flip
was
between
here
Mary and
last
Susan. Perfect, okay, sounds good. So I'm gonna do this one more time. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, thanks everybody. The minutes as amended are approved. Beth, Matter Center report.
I've looked if you had mentioned that. We can just switch. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, we look alike.
Okay, just there's a little bit of April left, and as noted, there's a lot more activities and services and things being booked. So we're really we'll be getting our May newsletter out by Friday, in order for folks to sign up, because there's some of the programming that we have that's opening to Darien residents first and has a space limit in it. As we did, April was National Humor Month. It is, because we're still in April. I'm already in December, but we're still in April. So we do have a wonderful performance this Friday with Chris Coogan and the Hoot Owls that are coming in. And so if anybody's interested in that, it is available on Friday. It's going to be a great program. And then next week we have a funny program about funny programs. It's all about the great sitcoms. This is a presenter that's new to us. The Bartlett Arboretum's coming in tomorrow, on next Tuesday for Planning It Forward. So they're doing a presentation, but there's also a craft that's associated with it. Mark Albertson is going to be doing a program on current events for 2024. He's a very, very stimulating historian, and he's talking about current events right now. So it's going to be quite, he usually garners about 35 to 40 participants every time he comes. This is probably going to be, the room will be full. I might even have to use the main cafe. We're also the volunteer luncheon, which you've all been invited to. If anyone is going to come that has an RSVP, just let me know. We're going to have a wonderful airborne trio entertaining at that as well. And we have an instructor that's leaving us, an exercise instructor, Darien resident, who's been with us, well, at least since I've been here, so for 15 years. She's so beloved that it was requested that we do, her name is Elizabeth Hall, a luncheon in her honor. She's bringing her husband because she wants to show her husband how loved she is, which is going to be wonderful. We're having a vegetarian lunch in her honor as well. But it really is, Elizabeth's an amazing person, an amazing resident, very supportive of the town on all levels. But her husband wants her to retire a little bit, so now she can travel with him. So she will be back into the center for like maybe 6-week classes here and there for backup. She's not leaving us completely. But it is wonderful to see the outpouring of folks that really, there's 60 people signed up for that. So that's one of the reasons why we're doing it. I think that's the first instructor in all my time of even being in this field that people have made such a request for. So it's kind of lovely. And since she's one of your own, I want you to know that, how wonderful she's been to us. And May is coming up. May is Older Americans Month. It is packed with things to do. The theme for Older Americans Month is Connect and Engage. So you will notice in the newsletter the other community agencies we're connecting with, and we're doing things with other services. We're working more on having folks come in to do medical evaluations and things, physical therapists, nurses, that kind of thing. So if you look to see the programming that's in, those are agencies or home health agencies in our area that are actively serving Darien. So it's nice for them to come in, and generally speaking, their appointments are like 15 to 20 minutes, or they're giving wonderful presentations. We've heard nothing but good things about them. We have looked at our survey that's come back. We haven't finalized everything that we learned from it, but we learned the areas that we're doing really well in and the areas that people want us to expand, so that's a good thing as well, and we'll definitely take all of that seriously. Just look at that newsletter. When the May newsletter comes out on Friday, it'll be online too, and it'll be in center, and just start to mark it up. We're trying to do at least an entertainment 3 or 4 times a month, because we're getting large numbers of people to come in. On May 30th, we're going to be doing with At Home in Darien, actually is going to be hosting the lunch portion of our Lee Henry, our karaoke masters coming back. Huge event always, and Darien residents, thanks to At Home in Darien, will have complimentary lunch on that day. We're working with on May 29th with the Y, who's going to do hosting National Health and Fitness Day throughout the town. Waiting for more details on that. We know what we're going to do in center, but we're trying to find out what they want us to do actually at the Y. National Health and Fitness Day for seniors has been around for 31 years. I did the first one in Stratford as a team for the town of Stratford.
Wow.
That's how old I am.
Very young teen.
Thanks. Yeah, I was a teen. But it's an awesome event, because pretty much all communities, town, everything is associated with it, and it's a really nice day to celebrate and to encourage people to age as resiliently and healthfully as they possibly can. So definitely grab that May newsletter when it comes out and mark your calendars.
Great. Questions for Beth? Hearing none, thanks so much. As noted, Cynthia is here for Ally. Tell us what's going on at Human Services.
Good morning, everyone. So we currently have one protected services for the elderly case open. The Department of Social Services have been so overwhelmed with calls that it took them 2 weeks to respond to our referral. Luckily, this resident has supportive family and they're close by, so they have been amazing back and forth with us for the last couple of weeks. Sadly, that's not the case for everyone. Thankfully, it was for this resident. We will be hosting the mental health first aid training once again, and that will be on May 15th and May 16th at Post 53. And that is open to any Darien resident or anyone serving the Darien community. And that is free of charge. We will be wrapping up the Energy Assistance Program, so anyone who would still like to apply has until the end of this month. Eversource has announced that they will increase their rates once again, so that is concerning for our clients, especially our low-income clients. We will be starting the Renters Rebate Program next month in May, and to be eligible, you have to be disabled or 65 years or older. You have to have lived in Connecticut 1 year prior to applying. There are income limits, so for a single person, it's $43,800, and for a married couple, it's $53,400. The great thing about this program is that a portion of what the renter has paid in rent and utilities is paid back directly to them, not like energy where it's a credit on their utility company. And it's also, the rebates are sent out late October, early November, so it's perfect timing for the holiday season. Our medical loan closet continues to be a great resource for the Darien community, so residents are able to get wheelchairs, walkers, transport chairs. We've gotten really great feedback. People think it's really convenient, and we're expecting an increase now with the summer months coming, weddings, graduations. We continue to maintain the emergency call list with a list of individuals that are vulnerable in the community, seniors, disabled. We have close to 100 residents, and we call everyone prior to and after a storm or town-wide emergency. So if you guys know of anyone that would benefit from being on our list, please let us know, and we will gladly reach out to them. Thank you.
Thanks, Cynthia. I'm going to tag on what Cynthia mentioned, was that you'll recall at our last meeting, we voted to send a letter to the state relating to the incident sheet thing. That letter has borne some fruit. It was written by Ally, Cynthia, and yours truly, me mostly serving as an editor, putting some more legalese in. But the long story short is they have responded. They have said that they're looking into this and they're praying it won't happen again. We shall see. I'll report back, or Ally will report back. when we get more details on what they think happened and why. But at the end of the day, at least we did get a response thanks to Peter. Peter reached out to one of our state representatives to make sure that he was on the case, and he said he would bring it up to the commissioner personally. So long story short, at least the letter, definitely bore some fruit. We'll see whether that fruit turns out to be good or bitter. We'll see. Any questions for Cynthia? Hearing none, thanks so much. Our main topic for today is the discussion of the Darien Planning and Zoning Commission's proposed amendments to the zoning regulations to permit accessory dwelling units, okay? And just so as you saw from our last meeting, we got a video out relating to Jeremy Ginsburg's recent presentation relating to this. And so just so we're all on the same page, and for purposes of TV 79, the accessory dwelling units are designed to allow people to have someone, typically a family member, okay, to be able to live on their property in a separate unit. It can be a unit that is detached, for example, above a garage, or not detached, but there are specific things which these accessory dwelling units must have for Darien to approve them. And remember, this is only a proposal right now. This is not actually law yet. But the proposal, to my mind, is a very good one. Specifically, it's trying to protect Darien property values by limiting in many ways how these can be used. For example, parking spaces. They don't want people to suddenly have parking all over the place because there's 10 people in the accessory dwelling unit with 10 cars, right? They're trying to make sure that everything is up to code. So for example, they want to make sure there's a place for the senior or someone else living there to have a place to cook, okay, and that meets code. They're designed really for properties of 1 acre or more, but for people who have properties of less than 1 acre, they can go through some of the things with the town to get that approved as well. There are no open stairways, so if your accessory dwelling unit is accessed by an open stairway, that's not going to qualify as an accessory dwelling unit. They want to make sure that whoever is climbing those stairs is not subject to the elements. No recreational vehicles can be accessory dwelling units. So they're basically saying, we don't want your son-in-law to drive his big RV and claim it's an accessory dwelling unit in your driveway. So there are some good things here. Other thing is owner occupied, okay? So in other words, these aren't going to turn where somebody's going to create a VRBO or an Airbnb and suddenly have, this is an accessory dwelling unit, I can have 2 instead of 1, right? So it's very conscious of this. And, at the end of the day also, people, they also are anticipating what people might try to do. So they're saying, no, you can't turn that storage unit or that shed into an accessory dwelling unit, okay? We're about to try to deal with that kind of stuff. It really needs to be something that was clearly designed or has been made into a real apartment, either inside your house or above your garage or something else, where a senior or someone else can live, okay, and effectively at some level live separately. That they're, and that's what these are talking about. So the state had a proposal which Darien opted out of. And this is Darien's response, and saying, Darien says, well, we don't like the state guidelines, we're going to come up with our own, okay? And to my mind, Jeremy did a very good job with this in trying to quite frankly, walk a very tight rope, which is the rope between we really need more housing, especially for kids and for seniors and for other people who may need this kind of housing. When I say kids, I mean adult kids. And people who are worried about their property values in Darien, what's going to happen to me when that person moves into an accessory dwelling unit next door? How is that going to affect my property value? So I think he's done a very good job, but that's the background, and now I open it up to other people's thoughts.
Well, I guess like most of us, I've read it, and I think it is very thorough. And in a way, in my mind, it's a sad reflection that essentially it's written to prevent people from taking advantage of it in a for what it was not intended for. Mm-hmm. And I understand that, and so I read this, and I go, yeah, right. What is for surely known is we need more residences for people incapable of climbing stairs, being close to family members or friends, or taking advantage of existing properties that can be modified so that, and we know this happens in other states, where you can bring somebody else in and essentially create a little apartment for them. Yeah, I'm all for it, and as I said, I read this, and I would defer to our real estate expert, Sue Oki, but when I read this, I said, wow, this really, they've thought about who can bend the rules to their advantage and to the disadvantage of what basically we're asking for, which is more space for us seniors to live.
Susan?
I also read it, and I watched most of the hearing that was, I think, well, it's on Channel 79. And, I agree with you, Peter. I think they're very thoughtful in how the rules were crafted, and I think it's much needed. And I would be, wholeheartedly in favor of it. I think the only one there was one person who was upset, I think, from the hearing, that had moved from one place because somebody had built too close to his property line, and he was concerned. But I can't imagine that that's going to be, that we're going to, if this passes, I can't imagine that we're going to suddenly have like hundreds of.
Yeah, it's also subject to the setbacks, which is what, right? In other words, it's not like you can suddenly put an accessory dwelling unit violating the setback. It's very specific that you can't do that. So it wouldn't put it would put an extra person next to you, but not a closer piece of building.
Yeah.
Joe, and because of who the opposition is, I think it's critically important that the town gets this information out, because in essence, it addresses, it's as if they were having somebody who was concerned about property rights and going through all of the, here is how we're protecting that. And I thought it was tremendously thorough in that attempt, and it is so much better than what the state was proposing. I can't imagine the state will actually end up approving as is what they've proposed, because it's got way too many holes in it compared to what this is. So the Channel 79 thing was excellent. He did a tremendous job.
The other good news is that we see accessory apartments all the time in homes that are not legal, so to speak, and this at least will make it people able to go to the building department to make a proposal and to have it all done so that it's done correctly and not cutting corners that could be safety issues. So it's great we're finally moving forward above board with this.
Who will monitor this? What part of the town government will, going forward, would take care of any not objections, but violations?
It would
Very-
be planning and zoning
Planning.
or the
Would be
building
P&Z.
department.
Okay.
I think, I think there's two elements. One is planning and zoning for approval in the first place, but building is going to have to ensure that the safety issues, the infrastructure issues are all done correctly. That you can't just slap something together and say, well, it meets the requirements. I hope that's how they're intending it, but
I think so. Anybody who's tried to redo bathrooms or anything else in this town knows that they're very tight, right?
Yeah.
To get your certificate of occupancy, it is difficult. If they find something weird, they're gonna make you change it. And I assume they're gonna be that much more eagle-eyed on things of this nature.
Yeah.
Other questions, thoughts? Here's how I'd like to move forward. I'd like to make a motion that we support these units, okay? And that we be in touch with Jeremy, okay? And basically say, Jeremy, when can we show up when you need us to show up, right? In other words, a letter's not gonna do that much, but I think that being there at the next hearing, or what hearings, plural, okay, to make sure the Commission on Aging, and I will be there assuming I'm around, otherwise I'll designate somebody else if I'm out of town. Does that work for everybody? All in favor? Opposed? None, thanks for that unanimous vote, appreciate that. Turning it over to old business, Peter, what you got?
Okay, I've got 4 things, actually. Let's start with something that got finished on the 15th of April, which is income tax. The Darien Library, as of Monday morning, had 1,689 tax returns filed. Last year it was 1,310. I work, Monday is one of the days that I'm there as a volunteer, and I have to tell you, it's an amazing thing. And we were finished at 6 o'clock. At 6 o'clock, one of the young librarians came up and pled the case of a lady that was downstairs waiting to do a tax return. And of course, we've never turned anyone away, and she brought her up. So I mean, that's the synergy of it. Personally speaking, it's very rewarding. I worked 24 days. I also worked at the Weed Library in Stamford because they wanted to reopen after 3 years, and I was part of the team that reopened it. I worked 120 hours on it, and I interfaced with 768 people looking for help.
Wow.
And it's extremely gratifying. And the point I want to make, and this to Channel 79, is the only thing that keeps this program from growing, every slot was filled, is that we have volunteers. Volunteer preparers. I'm not a preparer, I don't even do the math at home, but I'm a greeter and I kind of organize what goes on. But the preparers are not accountants. They're people like us, you know what, they're people that love numbers, so they're math teachers and they're people that have, bookkeepers and people that they've had another profession, and they say, okay, now I want numbers. And what you just need to do is to go to the IRS site and go look at VITA, volunteer income tax assistance. And it's done with AARP, it's done with other organizations like Simplify Connecticut, and now's the time to do it. And the preparation is simple. You have to go to a class, you have to take a test, and it's a simple test. But it's an incredible program, and they'll have the statistics on it, but again, and you can't do it without a partner like a library, honestly, that helps. So. Finished until next January. Now I can talk to my plants in the garden. Sticking with the library for a second, when the library visited us, we asked if they would give us information on senior programs. And Amanda Goodman at the library said she's going to give us a list toward the end of every month that we could talk about and show here, and Joey will make this an attachment to them.
Sure. And
these are the events in the library that she feels are for adults. And it's terrific. I just took a look at it, I said, what kind of programs are there? There are three programs on employment for older people. There's 5 that are purely entertainment. There's 5 on long-term planning. There's 3 on mind and body. There's, because of the time of the year it is, there's 6 on gardening. That's the month of May. And anybody can go just to the Darien Library website and click on it. But I did that, and you know what? I found something interesting. So if you go to events and you click on them, there are 4 categories of events at the library. First category is babies to 5. The second category are kids to 12. The third category are teens and tweens. And the fourth category is adults. And I'm thinking, wow, they fragmented up to probably 19 into 4 categories, and then they've lumped the rest of us into one category that are adults. Now, you could go through this program and say, well, most of these events are for anybody of any age, and they're right to some degree. But for example, in this, there are elder care issues, there are dealing with preparing for dying and protecting yourself, so there are some that are focused, but again, it's a conversation I'd like to have with the library, and maybe some of you, if you have a connection with the library, talk about that and say, you know what, I'm wondering, could you segment that big category of adults into smaller categories? Just a thought.
And one of the big programs coming up in May, and so I encourage folks, especially watching on TV 79, to check out the Darien website, is that pre-planning for a funeral, okay? It's a 3-part seminar, okay, relating to, thoughts about pre-planning what you want, what your service would look like, things of that nature. Because one of the things I see in my practice that's quite frankly devastating is the funeral industry. Now, we're very blessed to have Lawrence Funeral Home in town. They're not like this, but there's so many other funeral homes which take full advantage of people during their grieving time. So what I have found is that to prepay a funeral is huge, okay, for families, because not only do you get the fact that it's much cheaper, because most people who are planning their own funeral are going to get a pine box. They're not going to get the mahogany and everything else that their kids might get. Secondarily is the pickup of the body. Sounds weird, sounds crazy, but a lot of people die at 1:30 or 2 o'clock in the morning. You're going to sit with a body the rest of the day and call them during business hours? If you prepaid, you can call up the funeral home and they'll come pick it up, which is huge. Okay, so I mean, if you think about the nature of it, okay, that prepay, so I'm thrilled the library is doing that particular program because I think it'll do a lot of good. Cool.
I just might add though, Peter, I'm not sure I agree with you. I don't think, I think seniors like to think that they're part of the whole group, and having a senior label on something might be off-putting.
Yeah. Again, maybe not the label, but just maybe look at how the fragmentation works. Yeah, I agree with you because I looked at this program. I don't have the answer, but it just struck me as really curious that they've made these microfine categories.
But those
Yeah.
categories
Yeah.
make a lot of sense. You get into the 50 plus, 60 plus, I don't know.
40 plus, let's split them in. If we go 40 plus, no one can complain, right? I mean, in other words, at the end of the day, except for the 40-year-olds, they go, what? But yeah, it's a great question how they balance that issue.
But anyway, we do know the library's serving us and serving us
They do a
well.
great job.
Absolutely.
The next part's a little bit messier. I'm going to talk about the legislative arena.
Go for it.
I don't know if any of you saw this, but in the Advocate on Monday, there was a fact thrown out. And the fact was that there are 700, I believe, I don't know, somewhere, I can't find it right now, 700 bills outstanding. The session is going to end in 3 weeks, and only one bill is passed.
Wow.
Only one, and guess which bill passed? The heating assistance bill. That passed, and the governor signed it right away. I get a rundown from AARP in Connecticut as to what they're focusing on, and I cannot believe this, but this was April the 9th. These are issues the AARP, who represent people 50 years in age and older, are concerned about. Housing, transportation, prescription drugs, insurance, for example. And they're wending their way through. 31 of them are already dead, okay? And that leaves 47 actually that they're still focused on. And they're important. I mean, act promoting nursing home residents' quality of life. Act concerning long-term care insurance premium rates.
You can bet there's plenty of lobbying against that by the industry.
Act concerning, right, elder care abuse unit in the Division of Justice. So, and the range is there. They're gonna be doing something, and again, it's a great stew pot at this point in time. But again, it's just, you know what, if you have an opinion and you know something's going on, talk to your legislator and get them to support or consider your point of view. to come back to that letter, I'll tell you exactly what happened. I took that letter and I sent it to some of my contacts, and I sent it to Senator Duff, and I got an email from Senator Duff at the end of the day that said, "You're the second person that's reached out to me, I'm gonna do something about it." So it wasn't me, I was just reinforcing what somebody else had already done. But I mean, that's what it's gonna take.
Yeah,
It's
and
just-
our letter copied all of our local representatives, so we were the number one on that, and then you were number two.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What's difficult about it is, it's, so many of them have not even gotten out of committee, much
Right.
less
Right.
put to vote. I think it was the insurance committee,
Yeah,
didn't have a single bill come out of committee, not one,
right.
because of internal
Fighting.
fight.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous. I mean, it's your legislature is not even getting a chance to vote
Yeah.
on many of these things because the committees cannot push them through and get them out. It's unbelievable,
It's frustrating.
yeah.
Final piece of information, the statewide aging summit is going forward. I'm going to be in on a planning meeting this afternoon, and that's set for, I think, in November. And it's going to be up at AquaTurf. And like last year, it's going to be a full-day event. And by next month, we'll have more information on it.
Fantastic. Thanks, Peter. Any questions for Peter? Hearing none. One other piece of old business. Sue Oki has done some amazing work. You'll recall that a couple months ago, we discussed issues related to the Housing Authority. So Sue has gotten us to have Peter Bigelow, the Housing Authority Treasurer, coming to our May meeting. Thank you. And he may be bringing Myrna Costa, who also helps manage the waiting list and things of that nature. So at our May meeting, we'll have that opportunity to talk with folks of the Housing Authority and get more information relating to their management of the Royal and the Heights. So kudos to Sue for that.
Yeah, I think it's very apt, particularly since I don't know if people are aware, but the waiting list for both the Royal and I guess Allen O'Neill has been closed for 2 years. And I have a problem with that, you know, even if a waiting list is 500 people long, at least they should know who their constituency is and who is waiting and have some idea of how many people really need housing. It's an important fact for all of us to be aware of.
Absolutely.
So we'll see what they have to say. I certainly don't want them to feel defensive in any way, but I just would love to encourage them to maybe think about approaching this differently.
Absolutely. And then we'll get the opportunity to talk. Thanks to Sue. Appreciate that. Great. Chris, what's going on at Home and Darien?
Well, Peter mentioned, you mentioned synergies, and I think that's a lot of what we're doing now is we're focused on engaging seniors with seniors, and I think I've spoken about that. We've got a couple of things coming out which involve us working with other organizations in town, including the library, which I'll mention. First, Beth had mentioned our lunch, and what you didn't mention, I think you're going to be starting out the karaoke to get everybody going with the first song. Is that true?
And they'll probably pressure me to do that.
Okay,
Much
Easy
to
hurdle.
not entertain.
good. Okay. All right, I'll go after you. With the library, Peter, you mentioned the library also. We've got a couple things coming up with the library. First and foremost, Marcia Clary, one of our board members, has a friend who wrote a book here, and he lives locally. So on May 9th, we're co-sponsoring a talk by the author, and we'll provide refreshments, and we're looking forward to doing that. And of course, we'll drive anybody who needs to get to the event. We'll be promoting that in our collateral material. Also, in Synergies, you had some of the folks from the library here, and had some follow-up discussions. Peter's pushing collaboration, and we've worked with Brittany, and we are going to be co-sponsoring a monthly, probably event class for really geared towards seniors. And the first one is going to be focused on accessible technology. So if you recall when they were here and they were showing some of those gadgets, we're going to expand that and try to get more seniors to come there. Some really cool things that they have, and they were excited too. So we're going to push that, and more information to follow on that one. Our Out and About issue was out last month, and in addition to our feature story, we put something in there about our membership discount program. And there are 29 businesses in town that provide discounts. And we've got some anecdotal information from Palmer's on people are using it. We started to drill down a little bit more. We made some calls. The Darien Diner says they get 20 people a week who use that discount card. The piece that went in the at-home.
That's me going twice a week.
Hey, I didn't say who, it's just one. But in the Out and About, that blurb, we listed the 29 businesses. So we've got a goal to probably double that, because we really haven't been out there trying to get some of these new businesses to come in there. And we are going to promote it. By putting it in the Out and About, each month we probably get about 2, maybe 3 requests that come in, people who want the membership card. We had 40 in the last 2 weeks. So people are seeing that. So we've got to promote that more. So again, we'll get more businesses, and we'll get more people to come. And there are a couple events that we are working on, which I think are going to be very notable. The board is currently meeting in committees and groups to work on. One of them is going to be a larger event that will probably happen in the fall. So can't really talk about the details there, but again, it's along the theme of getting seniors to connect with seniors and addressing the isolation and loneliness. So more to follow on that, and that'll be much of what I probably update you with next month.
Awesome. Thank you. Any questions for Chris? Another piece of old business, you'll recall that Tom Dempsey pushed us to say we really need to have a presentation for seniors on tax deferral, tax abatement, and real property taxes. So Tony Omicki and I, along with one of Tony's colleagues, did a presentation exactly a week ago today down at the Mather Center. Thanks for Beth for setting that up so nicely. We got to use a portion of the cafeteria with the wall blocked off. The TV 79 was also awesome to come and video. Had some great questions, some great discussions. So if you couldn't be there in person, as I know Peter was, check it out on TV 79. I thought it went very well. And certainly with our deadline, I believe of May 15th, Tony can check me on that if he's watching on this. People need to get in touch with Tony Omicki to talk about this, to apply if they qualify. So at the end of the day, deadline is now looming. We're within a month of that. So watch the TV 79 thing, and if you qualify, for God's sake, please do it. As I hammered at that meeting, a lien is a piece of paper on the land records. That's all it is. And so the opportunity to stay in your home, to be able to have extra money for food, for medicine, for heat, those kinds of things, to defer your taxes is a really great thing. So I hope more and more people will take advantage of that. Peter?
Yeah, it was an excellent presentation, and I think what really comes out is people are not aware of it. So it's promoting it is what's the most important. And the other day I got an email from the town on from Parks and Rec about boat safety, for example, and placing to put your canoes and things. Why not that kind of a bulletin for a subject like this, which is really even more impactful to a lot of seniors? People just don't know about it, so it needs more promotion. It's a valuable thing that's underutilized.
Right.
Unless the town is going to lose money by doing it, which I kind of doubt, because we've talked about the economics of older people living in town. It makes a lot of sense to promote it.
Totally. Absolutely. Good stuff. Other old business? Hearing none. Do we have any new business for this meeting? Looking around, seeing none. Can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting, the April meeting? Thanks, everybody. Second, all in favor? Aye. See you guys in May for our discussion with Peter Bigelow and the Housing Authority folks. Thanks so much.
Yeah.